What? What do you mean they admit it? They admitted it! They admitted their failures? Get on over to Cosmic Wonder and subscribe. Tell them Tyrone Magnus sent you.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cosmic Wonder. The Wall Street Journal just released a very important article that I think every Marvel fan needs to hear what they said, because they talk about how Marvel Studios has just reevaluated everything that they have done basically over the past 5 years and have decided to completely switch up everything that they are doing. This article talks about...
I find that hard to believe, considering what they're continuing to do. Oh my God, I find that so hard to believe. They've already said that they're going to switch up. I'm getting so tired, exhausted,
about how Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, was basically pressured by Disney to create streaming content. They talk about how he was spread way too thin, and many people working on shows and movies had to run in the hallways to try and find him to just get a second of his time so he could approve or disapprove or give his input on certain projects.
But that wasn't even the reason why all this failure has happened. We all know why. Of all the political injections they've been doing into their shows and their movies. We know that's the reason why. So let's not talk about the man being spread thin, because there's been other people worked to the bone that produced quality product. I don't want to hear it.
Talk about how the people at Marvel Studios talked about Marvel and superhero fatigue. They talk about why they did everything they have done recently.
There is no Marvel and superhero fatigue. It's woke fatigue.
Including bringing Robert Downey Jr. back as Doctor Doom and making Avengers King Dynasty Avengers Doomsday. But most importantly, they talk about their plans moving forward. They acknowledge the issues of the past and are moving forward in a great way, and I think everybody needs to hear what is being said in this article.
I will not believe them until there is consistent happiness from the fans. If there's no consistent happiness from the fans, they're not doing anything correct. And it don't include Thunderbolts. Because if you look at how it's doing financially, you look at the Rotten Tomatoes scores, something's amiss. Okay? If the fans were happy and trusted Marvel, they would have $1 billion movie or close to $1 billion movie on their hands, but they don't. They've lost the trust, okay? And I did a poll, and in my poll, almost half of the fans chose that it was mid, like meh, is this meh of a movie, or didn't like it, okay? The majority of the fans liked it in my poll. So if the poll of my fans is anything that is very similar to the entire fan base, then you could say the majority of the fans liked it. However, not enough of the majority. Because if you have 51% and 49%, that's not enough of a majority of the fans for something to truly be a success. Go look at my poll. I just posted them. Go look at my poll for Infinity War. And go look at my poll for Thunderbolts. Okay? You need to have Infinity War or close to Infinity War type numbers of satisfaction from fans. That means it's going to be Captain America, Civil War, Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Infinity War, Endgame, Far From Home, which one is it? No Way Home? I get them mixed up. Which is the last one with all three of them? You're going to need stuff like that to where the majority of the fans a high majority, a lion's share majority of the fans are liking these movies before you can say that they're back or they're even on their way back. And it needs to be consistent. So, yeah.
Cool. So let's go ahead and break it all down. The article itself is titled, Disney Wanted More from Marvel, Now It Wants Less. The superhero studio is cutting back TV production and fixing its film slate after fans lost the plot.
Yeah, it's so stupid because they're talking about cutting back, and before they were talking about cutting back. Oh, we did too much. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. It wasn't the number of shows. It wasn't the number of movies. It's what you were putting in the shows and the movies. That's what you did too much of. Don't try it. We all know it. And that's the main complaint with families, mothers, fathers, and the fans of Marvel about Disney, of what you've been putting in it. So don't try none of that ish, okay?
Now, right away, the article basically addresses and confirms what all of us fans thought all along. They state the head of Marvel Studios, speaking of Kevin Feige, told colleagues recently that watching all the comic book giants' new TV shows and films had started to feel more like homework than entertainment.
No, not at all. Not at all. The majority of us, especially in the beginning, it was always excitement to see how they were going to tie something in and everything. I never heard anyone say that it felt like homework. Although I did hear people start to say that, especially, see, your faults show more the more you mess up. And the more they're messing up, people would be like, do I gotta watch something else to know what's going on here? Like, you started to hear that complaint. But that was the worst things got. The more the shows got terrible, the more the movies got terrible. It was drudgery to go see the movies or the shows. But beforehand, you made sure you saw the shows and the movies, so you knew everything that was going on and what was connected. It's because of their failure to keep the fans' attention and losing their loyalty and messing up the IPs. Don't try that. You know what I mean? Now, maybe for him maybe for Feige that's what it felt like, since he had to review all this stuff.
The problem, Kevin Feige acknowledged, is that in an effort to satisfy parent company Disney's hunger for content on its new streaming service, the studio behind The Avengers churned out too many movies and shows with interconnected
Too many woke movies and woke shows with interconnected stories. That's what they should have did. And that pissed families off. It pissed fans off. It pissed everyone off. And they didn't want to watch it no more. That's what happened. Too many of the politics.
Stories. The deluge of material from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU, on Disney Plus overwhelmed and eventually alienated viewers. It also stretched Feige and his team's resources thin, diluting the quality of their output. Marvel's box office sales, streaming popularity, and formerly untouchable position in pop culture suffered. So, right away, Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, admits that watching everything kind of felt a little bit more like homework than entertainment.
And I bet you, if he's not really fully on board with all this woke garbage, I bet you it damn right felt like homework. It was no longer fun for him. But he had to follow orders. Got that big paycheck coming in. You know what I mean? You never know at that level. Like, whatever. Might have a damn $100 million compound that he lives at. He's taking care of his whole family. He's got other businesses open and stuff like that. You never know what he's doing. And he's got to continue to get paid to fund all these things that he's set in motion. And then once they slap on that, hey, this is the direction we're going in. Whether you want us to or not, we need you to get on board and churn out this entertainment for us that has all these check marks in it. Can you do it? Sure, I sure can. We need you to publicly be on board. Sure, I can do that. You know what I mean? That's going to feel like drudgery. It's going to feel like homework.
Confirmed what we all thought. Disney was pressuring Marvel Studios to simply just produce a bunch of content for Disney Plus, and naturally everything suffered for it. But here's the good news. They acknowledge this and they are now getting back on track to try to get back to old school Marvel. They state,
looks like a basketball, unless you're a Marvel fan and you realize what it is.
Now, Feige is leading an internal overhaul aimed at getting the studio back on track. Marvel is making fewer TV shows, with standalone stories that don't require prior knowledge of the MCU.
No one cares. No one cares. Make it good, make it not woke, and we'll all start to eventually funnel in. However, you've already lost people that will never come back. They ain't going to never come back. Just like me with the WWE, I still don't want to come back fully. I've actually been watching a little bit recently. Look how long it's been, though. How many years has it been since I left? I can't even remember. I don't know, 7, 8 years. I don't know. It's been a while. And I only watch stuff from time to time. You know what I'm saying? I've been thinking about maybe taking Scarlo to a local show around here. Maybe when they come around, you know what I'm saying? But other than that,
Feige is focused on fixing the studio's movie slate following recent flops like February's Captain America Brave New World. So right away, they're making less
the way
TV
things look now, Thunderbolts is about to flop too. They better hope that word of mouth spreads enough for it not to flop.
And it sounds like now, one, the TV shows aren't going to require any prior knowledge in the MCU, meaning you won't really have to watch anything beforehand. So this is a big
That doesn't matter
if
to
you
me.
Didn't watch
because that was always half the fun. That was always half the fun. I loved how they were connected.
Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Age of Ultron,
When they
and
were
other
good.
things prior to watching WandaVision,
Now I don't care.
Probably wouldn't have too much of an idea of what's going on. The same thing went for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or Loki. If you didn't watch things before, it would be really hard to really get into the shows. So Marvel is no longer going to make shows like that. They're going to make shows that you can watch.
Doesn't matter.
And this most likely means that they won't have too many tie-ins to big events that are...
Absolutely doesn't matter here, Disney. And you know it and I know it. If you continue to push all the ideologies, okay, all the propaganda you've been pushing, it's not going to matter. Oh, you didn't have to watch the other show beforehand to understand. They're not going to want to understand because they're not going to watch it because they don't care anymore. Apathy. You are the kings of generating apathy from your fans at this point.
Happening in the MCU overall. I'm sure some of them will, but it sounds like their goal is to basically make the MCU the way it was before, with all of the movies being the things that really interconnect with one another, and then the shows can be fun, one-off adventures. And yes, they will take place in the MCU, so of course they'll be connected in that sense, but it sounds like they're going to make it to where they're not absolutely necessary for the overall story in the films. Now, as far as why Marvel suffered during this time where they were producing a lot of Disney Plus content, they talk about this in great detail in the article, and it all comes down to...
So is this made up reasons, or is it the truth?
Kevin Feige. The article has a section titled Papa Feige. In this section, they talk about how great Kevin Feige has been at starting the MCU. Basically, building up to Avengers Endgame, and with Avengers Endgame, the studio really couldn't be touched. With, of course, its crowning achievement being in 2019 with Avengers Endgame, with it grossing $2.8 billion, a record at the time. But here's where the problem and the decline came in after that.
Crowning jewel is truly Infinity War. That's the crowning jewel.
They state during Marvel's heyday in the 2010s, Feige was heavily involved in the film development. He deployed lower-ranking executives to supervise shooting, then got his hands dirty again in the editing room, often making significant changes and ordering new scenes. And the movies were overseen by a small team of creative executives who came to be known as the Parliament. Most had been with the company since its founding or joined as assistants and were promoted, giving Marvel a family-like culture. And they state Feige was the studio's beloved and charismatic dad, a creative genius from whom everyone sought attention and approval. So it was working great before Endgame, but this is where the problem came. They say soon after Endgame, Marvel Studios, started to work on what was next for the MCU. However, Disney was working on what would be best for Disney Plus to compete with Netflix, stating that Disney needed loads of new series for it, and they were counting on Marvel to provide many of them. The strategy became just expansion, 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 said a person who worked at Marvel at the time. Kevin Feige told colleagues that he agreed to the plan because of a zealousness to tell more stories and a desire to be an excellent corporate citizen. It turned out to be a mistake. The Wall Street Journal...
We know what the mistake was. Stop. And blame it on oh, God, man.
States that Marvel's transition from producing a few hours of movie content annually to several dozen hours of streaming shows and films eventually broke down the studio's processes. A pair of executives oversaw each show, while Feige remained the final decision maker on every significant creative issue, even though there were exponentially more decisions to make each day. And
so that means he let all that stuff go out, and he checked it. He checked it and knew everything it had in it. Exactly. Ding! Exactly. He knew everything they were putting in those and let it go out anyway, even though fans, millions upon millions upon millions of fans, were complaining and telling them that they did not like the direction they were going in. And he kept going forward with it. So that shows that he knew everything they were putting out.
Here was the big problem. They state people who worked at Marvel in the early 2020s said...
You notice no one ever says in Feige we trust anymore. I swear I got that started. I didn't know anyone else that was saying that when I started saying that. And now I'm hearing people say in James Gunn we trust, or in Gunn we trust, with relating to this Superman film. But, okay. We'll see.
It was challenging to secure enough time with Feige to get his feedback. As a result, they sometimes spent weeks on work that proved irrelevant once he weighed in, then found themselves with little time to implement his changes before a deadline. Desperate staffers resorted to chasing Feige in the halls to get answers. So basically what they are explaining here is that before, Kevin Feige used to look over everything. And that's because they used to only produce a few movies a year. And they actually show a graph here that shows what they produced prior to Disney Plus and then what they started to produce after. And as you can see here, it is so much more. So while Kevin Feige used to be able to look over everything, it quickly turned into he was basically looking at some things here and there, giving his input every now and then when the final product came, he demanded changes to make things better. But since there wasn't a lot of time, they really couldn't make all of the changes, and that definitely explains why the CGI for some things has been pretty sketchy. The team...
we can't blame the CGI right now. It's more than just the CGI.
was asked to make changes with just not enough time to do it well. So the result was a lot of projects coming from Marvel Studios, all of which weren't the same quality that fans were used to. Which brings us to the next section titled Marvel Fatigue. They state, the internal dysfunction began to show in Marvel's output. Viewers complained that there was too much Marvel content to keep up with, and a growing proportionate of it felt subpar.
We weren't complaining about there being too much. We were complaining about it being subpar.
With shows failing to attract new viewers, even old viewers.
If they were all even average to Infinity War quality from the normal Marvel Cinematic Universe that we were used to, we would have been fine. We had so much great entertainment to binge. We would not have complained about that. But it was bad. You know it, and we know it. Stop. Variety is the only outlet that tells the truth. You know, people complain like that. Like if I look at articles from other outlets, they've told me in the past that they wouldn't believe it unless it came from Variety. Listen, a lot of these companies work hand in hand with the companies. So it's like we're trying to put this story out about why our product is failing. Can you help us get it out? Sure. Shake hands. There'll be some dollars exchanged. Or we'll give you an exclusive interview. You know, stuff like that. Doesn't mean it's the truth. But we know because we've been in the trenches. We've been in the trenches. We're on social media. We hear what the fans say. We see the forums. We see what fans are talking about, the videos that the fans are talking about. We know why the movies are failing. And we know that Disney or Marvel has been disappointed, or even, you know, people in the company here and there that put out narratives about the fans themselves that were absolute lies. So come on now. Like, stop.
With shows like Secret Invasion and Miss Marvel, and they state that in the theaters, Marvel's biggest hits were the nostalgia stories like Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine.
No Way Home.
They then stated that they had a lot riding on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and then it flopped. And then employees at Marvel started to talk regularly about Marvel fatigue. They worried that they
should have been talking way before that.
created a no new fans club in which people unfamiliar with the state of the MCU couldn't watch a new release because they'd have no idea what was going on. Meanwhile, Wall Street's obsession with streaming growth gave way to a focus on profit.
See, here's the thing. When something is a smash hit, they want to watch what came before. They want to. There were certain movies that I watched with Scarlett, and she was like, wait, why did this happen? And I'm like, oh, because of this and the next one. She's like, oh, I got to see that. See what I'm saying? It wasn't drudgery for her. It wasn't work. It wasn't homework. She was so happy with the movie, she wanted to see the other one. The hell out of here.
Profitability, and Bob Iger and Kevin Feige began scrutinizing Marvel's costs and creative.
Fans do that with comic books too. You ever notice that? You read a good story and you be like, wait a minute, and they'll like, you know, let you know. They'll refer back to what issue of what one when something else happened. You be like, oh, I gotta look that issue up. Yo, this story is banging. You know what I'm saying? Get the hell out of here.
Choices more closely. This led to them deciding that Blade's script was not good enough, and they scrapped the film. For now, at least. But this is where things kind of started to change. Quantumania bombed, and then Kevin Feige decided to become more involved, hoping that the Marvels wouldn't bomb. But it became Marvel's biggest bomb ever. And this is where all of the big Marvel changes come in. Marvel and Feige's Parliament team has gone to a retreat every fall in Palm Springs. They would go and they would plan out the future of the MCU. And in 2023, it was basically the worst time that they've ever gone, with Marvel not being in such good shape. The TV shows weren't working, the movies weren't working, and the studio had just laid off employees for the first time in its history. From here, they talked about whether or not they could salvage their plans for Kang Dynasty.
They went that damn far with this garbage that they had to start laying people off. And you know there's people in the office, you know, not every single person in the office was on board with this ish. You know, they was like, man, this is ridiculous. But you know they were being told internally not to go that way.
With Quantumania being...
And then you hear about these companies with this toxic positivity thing, where they just have to be so positive and know there can be no pushback. This is the direction to go. We believe it in it. You need to believe in it. It's going to work. And then when it don't, oh, it was this, it was that. It was the fans, it's bigots, it's homophobes, it's misogynists. Right.
Such a bomb, and talked about a new TV strategy in which shows would have plots divorced from the MCU, making them easier for new fans to understand. And this led to a bunch of changes that Marvel Studios then made and are continuing to make now.
Miss you.
They decided to cut back significantly on TV production, and Disney CEO Bob Iger even said quantity in our case diluted quality, and Marvel has suffered greatly from that.
False.
And now they're only going to release one or two, suffered greatly from that.
The quantity in our case. That's what they were saying before. False. Wrong! Oh, wait, it's the Lex Luthor from Superman Returns. Wrong! Arnold Schwarzenegger. Commando. Wrong.
And now they're only going to release 1 or 2 live action streaming series annually, starting in 2026.
Doesn't matter.
With the goal of
it doesn't matter
to have multiple seasons and not cross over onto the big screen. And the primary reason that they are doing this is so Feige can focus on the movies. And they're even going to have a senior executive overseeing television, which, as far as we're concerned, I believe that is Brad Winderbaum, head of Marvel TV. Marvel's top priority is ensuring that the next 2 Avengers extend the track record of the franchise. So Marvel decided to brainstorm on how they could make Avengers Kang Dynasty.
And truthfully, if Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars don't work, I'm done. At that point, if I'm still watching, it's all got to be out of morbid curiosity, just to see how far they'll dig the hole. You get what I'm saying for themselves? But just got to be something with that. I know how good the Russos are at what they do, so just have to see.
Better, and it just so happened that at that time, Kevin Feige had been talking to Robert Downey Jr. for more than a year about returning to the MCU to specifically play Doctor Doom. They just didn't know when or where he could return and appear in the MCU. But as they started to think about what to do for Kang Dynasty, they ultimately decided that Robert Downey Jr. was the solution to their so-called Avengers problem. So they changed Avengers Kang Dynasty to Avengers Doomsday and announced that Robert Downey Jr. would be returning to play Doom. And they don't mention this, but I'm sure the fact that Jonathan Majors got into all of the trouble that he did made it pretty easy to move away from Kang. On top of...
You know what Thunderbolts is actually starting to remind me of? Andor. Andor was said to, have high scores, but it didn't perform well. Now, the difference between Andor and Thunderbolts for me is that I enjoyed Andor. However, it doesn't feel like Star Wars. Thunderbolts does feel like Marvel to an extent. And even though I enjoyed Andor, I really never had any urge to watch it ever again. It's an offshoot of Star Wars, and it's not what I come to Star Wars for. So I really don't have any urge to watch it again. But they're both like that. They both have that type of, people don't really know what's going on. People also don't care. The mainline fans, the mainstream, the fans that are on board for everything just don't care about it. And the normies, which is who you need to get to watch. To tell you the truth, that's probably the biggest thing. You need to get the normies to watch. And when the normies don't want to watch, which are the general audiences that, sometimes they've read a comic book, maybe they've not, but they're going day to day in their lives doing their thing, and they may want to go see a movie after dinner. They may want to take the kids and the wife to see a movie. They, maybe want to go with their buddies to see, but that's the extent of it. They're not following everything like a lot of us do. So you can't get the normies in to watch. It's going to be a problem. Andor found out, and Marvel's finding out with Thunderbolts. So if you like it, more power to you. But to me, 2 out of 5 woos.
Of already beginning to think about moving away from Kang. Then on top of that, they hired the Russo brothers to come back for the next 2 Avengers films as well, stating that Kevin Feige likes to go back to people he trusts, particularly in moments of urgency, which I would definitely say that Marvel was in. So Marvel Studios has a completely new plan moving forward, and the article ends actually by stating, in many ways, Marvel has now reverted to its strategy from before the streaming boom, as if...
No, they haven't. At all. We ain't seen it yet.
If the past 5 years had been a bad...
When will it be realized? When will old Marvel truly be realized? Because the stars are saying, oh, it feels like old Marvel. This feels like old Marvel. None of them have felt like old Marvel. None of them. Captain America 4 hasn't felt like it. Thunderbolts hasn't felt like it. They both have some of the old Marvel sprinkled in it, but they don't feel like old Marvel. Neither of these movies felt like The Winter Soldier or Civil War or Infinity War or Endgame or even Iron Man 1. None of them felt like that. None of them felt like Avengers, the first Avengers. Like, come on now. When is that feeling going to be realized again?
Dream. As he did when Marvel Studios started, Feige has an expansive vision for his company's big screen future. The upcoming Avengers movies are expected to introduce the X-Men, one of Marvel's most popular superhero teams, to the MCU. Feige has
Do you know how many people are afraid they're going to totally flush the X-Men down the toilet and destroy them? Do you know how many people right now are shaking in their boots that they're going to destroy that IP like they've been destroying everything else?
Old colleagues, he has a 10-year plan for the characters. So, huge news for us Marvel fans. Marvel Studios is basically going back to how they did it.
10-year plan? 10 more years of this? Psh, you can count me out. Remember what Hudson said in Aliens? Yeah, sure. Those things running around. You can count me out. Yeah, sure. They keep making woke movies and series. You can count me out.
In the Infinity Saga. And the phrase, "In Feige we trust," does come to mind because when Feige can directly oversee projects and give time to those projects, that's when they're good. And now Marvel Studios has a head of television to where Feige doesn't really have to be involved. Which means now, and this is their plan, he can completely focus on movies. And this is going to make a really big difference for both TV and movies because now Brad Winderbaum can make all the decisions for TV shows and he can make them pretty much right away when they need to be made. This will lead to things not being done at the last minute, and the same thing goes for movies. Kevin Feige can be involved the entire time. So instead of the creative team working on something for weeks and then Kevin Feige coming in and saying, nope, that doesn't work, start over or do something else, that's not the case anymore. He can be with them when they begin and either say, yes, this is good, or no, it's not, let's go a different direction. This is going to really just improve the quality of all of the projects coming from Marvel Studios a ton. So their new strategy combined with the X-Men now coming to our new universe after Secret Wars and the Fantastic Four and whoever else they get to appear is going to mean Marvel Studios is going to be at its very best after Avengers Secret Wars. But really, hopefully, starting with the Fantastic Four and Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, that should be the best for Marvel Studios as well because they're already doing their new plan. Feige has been way more involved with these projects than he's been in the last 5 years. So, hopefully, they are fantastic.
Hopefully, you damn right, Wonder. Hopefully. You know.
I think this is great.
Man, look, let me tell you something. After this whole video, airing out everything I had to say, this is nothing but remanufactured, regurgitated stuff that they already said like last year or the year before something. It's the same. It's the same. Nothing different. So, yeah. Okay. We'll see. We'll see. All right. So I guess in the next couple of years, what we're going to see is we're going to see great Rotten Tomatoes scores, Metacritic scores, along with $1 billion or close to $1 billion box offices. That's what we're going to see since they're getting back to old Marvel. Okay, we'll see. 10 million subscribers. Woo!